Here begins videotape number 1 in the deposition of Demetrius Jones in the matter of Allen et al. Versus Burks, MD et al. To be heard in the Circuit Court for Baltimore City, Maryland. Case number 24-C-15-003384 Today's date is August the 22nd, year 2016. The time of the video monitor is now 1:04 p.m. The video operator today is Scott Pickering. This video deposition taking place at the University of Maryland Medical Center, located 22 South Green Street, room P3F05, Baltimore, Maryland. Counsel, please voice identify yourselves and state who you represent.
Rodney M. Gaston. I represent Cynthia Allen, the estate of Dennis Allen, and Dennis Allen's surviving children.
Good afternoon. My name is Ronald Shaw. I represent Dr. Alan Burks and the University of Maryland Medical System.
The court reporter today is Barbara Connor of DTI Court Reporting Solutions. With the reporter, please swear in the witness.
Please raise your right hand, ma'am. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth on the penalties of perjury?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ma'am, could you please state your name and business address for me?
Business address, my home address?
Well, are you current? First off, let's go with your name.
Okay, Demetrius Jones.
Ms. Jones, are you currently employed at the University of Maryland Medical
Yes.
Center? All right. Ms. Jones, have you ever had your deposition taken before?
No.
All right. I'm going to go over some basic ground rules so we can get an accurate recording of your testimony. Although your testimony is being captured on videotape, the court reporter is also here, and she's taking down all my questions, and she has to take down all of your answers. It's hard for her to take down testimony if we both talk at the same time, so I'll just ask if you can be patient and wait until I finish asking the question before you answer. And then also, if you have any questions or you don't understand a question that I ask you, let me know and tell me immediately. Otherwise, if you don't, we will assume that you've understood the question and the answer is the answer that you intended to give. Also, if you have to take a break at any time, just let us know. Can you do that for us?
Yes.
All right. Ma'am, what is your position here with the hospital?
Phlebotomist.
All right. And when did you become employed at the University of Maryland Hospital?
7/23/2000 and what's this? 13? No, I think it's 2012.
All right, 2012. Have you always been employed here at the hospital since that time?
Yes.
Has your position always been the same as a phlebotomist here at the hospital?
Yes.
All right. And are you a certified phlebotomist?
Yes.
And which organization certified you?
ASPT.
And do you know when you obtained that certification?
2012.
All right. And have you always worked the same shift here at the hospital?
Yes.
And what is that shift?
5:30 to 2.
Is that 5:30 a.m.
Yes.
to 2 o'clock p.m.?
Yes.
Okay. And have you always worked the same floor?
No.
All right. Back in 2013, March of 2013, can you remember what floors you were assigned to during that month?
No.
All right. And how would you get your floor assignment?
When I come in the morning, be already laid out for you.
All right. And can you go over for me and break down your daily routine? When you come in the morning, where do you go and what do you do?
When I come in the morning, I go to my locker, drop off my belongings, go into phlebotomy, and look at the schedule, see what floors I have. The floors be laid out on the counter
Okay.
with your name on it.
Okay. All right. And then what do you do next?
Get your card together and then go to your floor.
Get your cart together. And what's in your cart?
Phlebotomy supplies.
All right, because I'm not a phlebotomist.
Oh,
Would
phlebotomy. It'd be needles, IVs, pearls,
needles,
bags, hand sanitizer.
Would they also
Oh,
be?
and tubes. Yeah.
That's what.
Yeah.
All right. Now, are these tubes plastic or glass?
Plastic.
Plastic. All right. Is there a particular piece of paper that you're given by your supervisor that lets you know which patient you have to provide services to during that shift?
Yes.
All right.
All right, so
And-
he's asking you as of March of 2013, so if things have changed since that time, please try to remember what was going on in March of 2013.
Okay.
All right. And I'm going to show you exhibit number 2 to see if this helps you along.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Do you recognize exhibit number 2?
Yes.
Okay. Can you explain what that piece of paper is?
This is phlebotomy AM round sheet, which shows that I have 10 east and 10 west.
And ma'am, I think that although I don't have the original, this is a photocopy. Is that a photocopy of your sheet?
Looks to be.
All right. Now, there are little square, I call them labels, that look like they're placed on the sheet. Are these labels already on the sheet when you obtain the sheet, or are these labels that are on your vials that you pull off and put on the sheet?
No, they already on the. You mean when I come in the
Yes,
morning?
ma'am.
They already on the sheet.
Okay, so all of the labels then would identify a particular patient that you had to go see that morning?
Yes.
Okay, and how would you know what service you had to perform for each patient by looking on their sheet? Is there a particular code on the sheet? Is there particular letters on the sheet that would let you know what type of service you needed to provide to any individual patient?
Well, all these patients on this sheet is getting phlebotomy services.
I understand, but there's different services for different patients, correct?
You mean different phlebotomy services?
Yes, ma'am.
Or different lab draws?
Same thing. That's okay.
Okay.
Why don't you tell me what the different phlebotomy services are that you provide to the patients first? Would they include a lab draw? A blood
Yes.
draw? Okay. Would they also include the placement of an IV, the starting of an IV?
Some.
Okay. Other than drawing a patient's blood and starting an IV in a patient's arm, are there any other services that you would regularly provide to patients in this hospital in March of 2013?
No.
Okay. Now, and how would you know, for example, on the sheet, how would you know that the first patient that you were supposed to see is supposed to get an IV start or a blood draw? How would you know that from that piece of paper?
But from this little label right here,
Yes, ma'am.
it comes from a long sheet of labels. So it had what test they have, and each label have a test on it individually. And then the IV label will have IV on it. That's how you'll know.
Okay, and that's printed right on the label itself. So
Not on this little individual label. It'd be a long sheet of labels, which will go into the bag after you finish putting the labels on the tubes and drawing the patient.
okay, if you can take a closer look at exhibit number 4, and what I've done, I want to hand you exhibit number 1, and I want to ask.
This is 2.
I'm sorry, exhibit 2. Thank you. If you could take a closer look at exhibit number 2, I'm going to hand you exhibit number 4, which I simply blew up a few of those labels. And can you see on those labels that there's actually letters at the bottom portion of those labels, the bottom portion of the barcode? Okay? And do those letters at the bottom portion of the barcode indicate the type of phlebotomy service the patient is supposed to have?
It indicates the test that they're having.
Okay. And did you perform any lobotomy services for Mr. Allen between 5:30 a.m. and 2 o'clock p.m. on March 18th in accordance with those documents that are in front of you?
Can you repeat that, please?
Yes, ma'am. If you could take a look at the documents that are in front of you, I believe one of those labels has Dennis Allen's name on it. If you could take a look.
I see it.
And can you tell me from that label what phlebotomy service was scheduled for Mr. Allen during the shift that you worked? That would be the day shift, 5:30 a.m. to 2 o'clock p.m. on March 18th, 2013.
Okay, what it say right here on the label that's here on this paper would have been a PT and a PTT.
Okay, and what is a PT?
It's a performing time
All right.
for to make sure that if the patient is on heparin, make sure that the blood is not clotting
All right.
or they got clotting time.
And the PPT, is that a partial No, why don't you tell me what PPT is?
PTT,
PTT.
prothrombin time.
Okay, all right. And is that different from PT?
No,
No, same
all
thing.
in together.
Okay, all together. All right, now, and can you tell me from exhibit number 4 and that enlargement, whether or not you were able, what were you supposed to provide for Mr. Allen on March 18th during your shift? What were you supposed to do for him?
Labs,
Okay, does that mean to draw his blood?
yes.
Okay, and when you follow your labels and go to the patient's room to draw the patient's blood, are you supposed to indicate at the conclusion whether or not you were successful in drawing the patient's blood?
Yes.
And how would you note that on your form?
My initials,
Okay, and then what would you write next to it, if anything?
DJ,
DJ is your initials.
Demetrius Jones.
Would you write anything else next to it
If I hadn't gotten it,
if you
No.
did? Okay, so anytime your initials appear on the piece of paper, that means you accomplished that task for that patient.
exactly,
Right.
yes.
And if you couldn't accomplish the task for the patient, then you would write something else in addition to your initials.
Yes.
Okay. And what did you write on for Mr. Allen for March 18th, 2013 for the PT blood draw?
Dialysis done.
Okay. And what does that mean? Dialysis.
That means
done?
I spoke to the nurse, and the nurse said that he will be joining dialysis.
Okay. So does that mean that then you did not have to make that blood draw that day? for Mr. Allen?
Exactly.
Okay. Now, if you can go on to exhibit number 3, which I'll show you. If you could take a look at that. All right. And is that the similar phlebotomy round worksheet that was available for you in your department on March 18, 2013?
That don't pertain to me. I wasn't here during my shift at that time.
I'm going to get to that in a second.
Go ahead.
But is that the same type of worksheet that you used, the similar type of worksheet you used for the day shift?
Same piece of paper.
Same piece of paper. And apparently, according to the information on that, was that the worksheet that's used by the night shift?
That's what it appears to be.
Okay. And is the phlebotomist name of Asia appear at the top of that?
That's what it says.
Okay. And do you know Asia?
I have met her,
Okay.
but
And,
to know her, no.
all right. And would you meet her at shift change?
No.
No. How would
Because
you?
Asia comes in at 3 to 11. I get off at between 1:30 and 2.
3 to 11. Okay. All right. And do you know Asia's last name?
I don't.
And do you know if she still works at the hospital?
She doesn't.
Do you know when she left?
I don't.
And do you know where she's working now?
I do not.
Okay. All right. Do you know who the phlebotomists are that work the 11 p.m. to 5:30 a.m. shift?
I don't.
Okay. Is there an 11 p.m. to 5:30 a.m.
It's
shift?
11 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Okay, hold on a second. 11 o'clock p.m. through
7 a.m.
7 a.m. Okay. So, and for exhibit number 5, I see you have exhibit number 4 in front of you.
I got 4, 3, 2, and 4.
Okay. I want you to take a look at the exhibit that's closest to your right hand.
This
Oh,
one,
and what is the number on that one, ma'am?
3.
All right, I'm going to show you exhibit number 5, which is simply an enlargement of that, where I've enlarged the boxes. And do you see where there's a label there for Dennis Allen?
I do.
Okay. And do you see underneath of that label the letters IV and then the word start?
I do.
And would that mean for that particular shift from the 3 to 11, according to that piece of paper, the phlebotomy services for Mr. Allen would have been to insert an IV line? Would that be true?
Yes.
Okay. And according to that, appears to be someone's initials AM and patient refused. Do you see that?
I do.
Okay. According to your policies and procedures, would that mean that for the 3 to 11 shift on the 18th, where the phlebotomist was supposed to start an IV, that the patient had refused that service at that time?
That's what it appears to be.
Okay. Now, can you tell me, if you're unable to obtain blood from a patient, once a patient offers his arm and you stick the needle in once, you can't get it, then he offers his arm again, he sticks it in twice, and you offer it again, you stick the needle in a third time and you can't get the blood, would you, and then after that the patient asks you, can you please get someone else to draw my blood, would you ever write that as a refusal in the chart?
Objection. You can answer.
You can answer.
Oh, I don't stick, well, we're not allowed to stick patients 3 times.
Okay. How many times are you allowed to try to get a patient's blood?
Twice.
Twice. If you're unable to get the patient's blood after 2 times, what are you supposed to write in the chart?
Unable to obtain. Not on a chart, on our paper. We
That's-
don't see the patient's charts.
Okay, so you have to write that. So
Yes.
if a phlebotomist on the midnight shift had been scheduled to take Mr. Allen's blood, and the phlebotomist tried twice and was unsuccessful, the phlebotomist would be required to put UTO, unable to obtain, but not write refused on the sheet.
No.
Objection. You can answer.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No.
No to what?
They can write UTO on the paper, unable to obtain, but no, they cannot write that the patient refused.
Okay. All right.
Because UTO means somebody has to go back and try.
Okay. Explain that process for me.
Okay, when we bring down the UTO, the next phlebotomist, we do rounds.
Okay.
So on the next round, we can go back and try the patient again.
All right. And when you mean the next round, does that mean during your shift, or does that mean the next shift who takes over for you?
No, it's during our shift.
During your shift. And how many rounds are there per shift?
Let me see. 3.
Okay, 3 rounds. All right, and that's for a day shift. Would that also apply to the 3 to 11 shift?
No,
How many rounds are there through the
I don't know.
And how many rounds are there through the midnight
I
day
don't
shift?
know.
Okay. All right. So anytime with this policy regarding trying to obtain a patient's blood on the next round, would that apply regardless of what shift the first phlebotomist was unable to obtain the patient's blood from?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now, if you go into a patient's room and you try twice and you can't get the blood, do you have to also notify the nurse?
Yes.
Okay. If you note that, do you push the nurse's call button while you're in the room and ask the nurse to come in and let them know that you're unable to get the patient's blood?
No.
Okay. You just try to find the nurse?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know for a round what's the routine amount of time that you're on the floor itself?
It varies.
Give me the variation.
It all depends on how many patients you have.
All right. And what's your average day?
My average day on the floor?
Yes, ma'am.
I really can't tell you because, I mean, like I said, it varies. I mean, you might run into difficulties, but it varies how long you're going to be on the floor.
For your average round, can you give me an estimate between 15 minutes and an hour, 15 minutes and 3 hours?
No, 15 minutes to 45.
Okay. Now, if you're in a patient's room and you see that the patient has a dialysis catheter, are you permitted to draw blood from that catheter?
No.
Are you permitted to draw blood from an existing IV?
No.
All right. All right. Yeah. So would it be fair to say that before your shift is over, that for any patient that you were unable to obtain a patient's blood from, you always notify the nurse before you go off duty?
Not before you go off duty, before you leave that floor.
Before you leave the floor? Okay. And is that the general policy and procedure that was in place in March of 2013?
Yes.
Okay. I've been provided with a policy by the hospital that was in place in March of 2013. It has to do with problem draws. Are you familiar with that policy?
No, I'm not.
All right. I'm going to just read you what it says in the policy.
Okay.
And then I'll have a question for you. It says, problem patients, refusals, gently and politely explain why the test is necessary. But if refusal is final, document on the test request form. is the test request form the same as a phlebotomy rounds worksheet, or is it a separate form?
Phlebotomy round worksheet.
Okay. All right. And it says, I'll continue on, never force or argue with the patient, and then notify the patient, clinic, or physician. In accordance with the policies and procedures that you were following in March of 2013, if a patient refused to allow you to draw his or her blood, would you notify the nurse immediately?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And,
Objection as to form.
and you've always followed that policy and procedure?
Yes.
Objection.
You can answer.
Yes.
Okay. All right. All right, ma'am, a part of the notice of deposition asked you to bring with you the original phlebotomy worksheet that covered the time period of 11 o'clock a.m. on March 17th through 8 o'clock a.m. on March 18th for 10 West, 10 East, which will include the phlebotomy rounding worksheet for the phlebotomist who was supposed to draw Dennis Allen's blood during the early morning hours of March 18, 2013 at approximately 4:30 a.m. Do you have that document with you?
Nobody asked me to bring any documents.
Okay. All right. Does council have that document for us?
What's the time again?
It's from 11 o'clock p.m. March 17th through 8 o'clock a.m. March 18th.
I wouldn't have that document no way because I don't work those hours.
I understand. I'm asking your lawyer if he does have those
My
documents.
understanding is we looked for those.
I just know if one's going to be produced today.
It would have been produced before. Miss Wiley is the one who looked for them, and we had to order them from storage, which took a period of time. And she went through a number of pages from March 18, and these are the only forms, these 2 pages, the only ones that Miss Wiley was able to identify that had Mr. Dennis Allen's name on them.
Let's see. Ma'am, do you remember working on November 18, 2013 at the hospital?
You mean March?
I don't.
March 18, 2013.
I don't.
Okay. And you don't, I presume you don't recall Dennis Allen as one of your patients?
I don't.
And was your shift Monday through Friday, 5:30 a.m. to 2 o'clock p.m.?
Yes.
Has always been that way?
Yes.
Okay. That's all the questions I have. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So, Ms. Jones, you've worked continuously every day, except for, I guess, vacation days, at University of Maryland Medical Center from March 18, 2013 through the present. Is that correct?
Yes.
So, in that time, you have probably drawn the